So once again, welcome to the Reed and Christine Halliday Executive Lecture Series. Our speaker today is David Royce. David is the founder and CEO of Altera, which provides environmentally responsible pest solutions to more than 1,100 cities across the United States. Altera is also a proud partner of the United Nations Foundation, Nothing But Nets, which helps stop the spread of malaria transmitted by mosquito bites. Altera dedicates a portion of all company profits annually to this organization, providing insecticide-treated bed nets to save the lives of millions in underdeveloped countries. Altera was recently ranked by PCT magazine as the #1 fastest-growing pest control company in North America. Their revenues have grown from 0 to 50 million in just 3 years since its inception. Not only do they have the highest producing sales force in the country, but they have built a culture grounded in honesty and fun. This fall, Altera was awarded the #2 top startup to watch in 2014 by Utah Business Magazine. Altera plans to be the largest privately held pest control service provider in North America by the year 2020. David's areas of expertise include sales and marketing, manager development, company culture, and scaling exponential growth via operational technology, systems, and processes. He built 2 successful entrepreneurial ventures prior to Altera. David graduated from BYU with a degree in entrepreneurial finance. While at BYU, David met his wife, Christina, who graduated with a double major in economics and political science. Christina also has a law degree from Pepperdine University and practiced securities fraud litigation for 5 years prior to becoming a full-time mom. Right now they have a daughter named Elle. I think she's about 2, and they're expecting another daughter on the way. So we're excited to have David here, and I'm excited to hear David. So let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be here today. Thanks, Brad, for the opportunity and the invite. Really appreciate it. So I've got a ton of stuff to go over today. It'll probably be like drinking from a fire hose. So let's just get going. So I want to start out with a quote by John Wayne. And he said, "Life is hard. It's harder if you're stupid." And that's some tough love from John Wayne. But I guess my interpretation of it is that you want to learn from your mistakes. And if you don't learn from your mistakes, life is going to be really hard. Same thing with entrepreneurship or being in business. If you don't learn quickly, it's going to be very expensive. So I want to start out by saying it's really important as an entrepreneur to be okay with failure. There's nothing wrong with failure as long as you learn from it. And so the concept of learning to fail forward, we're going to talk about that a lot. The second question, I guess, would be, how do I avoid dumb tax? So dumb tax it's a tax you pay when you learn a hard lesson. And in business, you're going to learn a lot. So my best example, I love this quote by Lloyd Christmas, "Just go, man." And Harry and Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, they start out on this journey where this woman loses a suitcase, and they decide to drive all the way across the country to Aspen, Colorado to try to give back this suitcase that she left. And along the way, they get in some brawls, they have some tough times, and about halfway through, I think somewhere in Nebraska, they realize that they're not going to make it. They don't have enough money for gas. And I think it's Harry that decides, hey, if we sell our gas-guzzling van for a moped, we might be able to make it. And so they do that, and once they get into Colorado, it starts snowing. You can see the snot frozen to their faces here, and this is right when they arrive into Colorado. And so they made it, but not without a few battle scars. So a quick bio on me. I'll skip through this really quick since Brad's already introduced me, but I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, served a mission in Panama City, went to BYU, met my wife there. She was a double major in economics and political science and ended up getting a law degree. Got a couple daughters, one on the way. I feel like she's already here now since we talk about her so much. And then hobbies, beach volleyball. I grew up in high school playing volleyball, learned a lot from that, learned how to accept failure anytime that you don't. If you fail on a to get a volleyball or something where the out is your fault, you just say it's my bad. I think a big part of entrepreneurship and gaining respect from your employees is being able to say, hey, my bad, I accept responsibility for that, and try not to make that same mistake again. Snowboarding, international travel, guitar, film, and business. My wife would actually tell you that business is my hobby and that I get to travel a few times a year and occasionally I play guitar or do sports. So Altera, number one fastest growing company in the United States. There's about 20,000 pest control companies. We're currently rated, I think, number 19 in terms of size. It's not the sexiest business. Most people don't say, I want to be in pest control someday. But we've turned a diamond in the rough into something that's ultimately sexy. And we've got this social mission as well behind what we do. So I want to set the stage. So after serving my mission in Panama, I came back and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do in life. What ultimately I was going to choose as a major. I didn't necessarily know. I thought I wanted to be a doctor at one point, later wanted to be an investment banker. Changed my mind multiple times. Some of you may have found yourself in that position. And when I first got back, I was working in a wakeboard shop. And my daily routine was usually wake up, go wakeboarding, get the class, come back, eat lunch by the pool and read a book, and then go sell wakeboards for the rest of the day. And I did that all summer long. And there happened to be a book in my apartment called Rich Dad, Poor Dad that one of my friends was reading, or one of my roommates. How many of you have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Anybody? Okay, good. So this book, it talks about the accumulation of wealth and just making smart financial decisions. And after reading that book and sitting out all these days, I said, okay, if an opportunity comes, I'm going to take the next opportunity I can and run with it, because I'm not really going anywhere fast at this point in my life. So I had a friend who approached me later on that winter. We sold wakeboards in the summer. I'm selling snowboards in the wintertime. He comes into the shop and says, hey, I went out and made 25 grand last year selling pest control. Do you want to go out with us? We're all going to California this summer. And I thought, great, so opportunity to get out of Utah for the summertime, go back to California, make some great money. And for me, it was hard because I was working roughly 20 hours a week, trying to go to school, trying to get really good grades so I could later go on to MBA school. And I thought if I could just focus on my grades during the year, I wouldn't have to do, this minimum wage job anymore. And so for me, I initially went out thinking, just go make some summer money and, maybe I'll have money for a wedding ring someday. So I ended up going to work for a company called Clark Pest Control. And I found a problem. When I got out there, I was not very good at sales. So the first 5 days, I sold zero. And there wasn't a whole lot of training. The business has come a long way since back then. And there's a lot more training now, but at the time, I wasn't very good. I was probably the worst in the whole company out of about 200 salespeople. And roughly the sixth day, I finally got my manager to take me out and let me watch him for about an hour selling, and something clicked. I ended up selling 4. I started reading sales books. I started really just eating up the training manual that they did have, even though it was very short at the time. And I became the top selling rookie that year and ended up doing 327 accounts. I was looking for something better. The next year I came back home. I was looking for a way to surround myself with other people who had sold maybe 400 or 500. Those individuals are much more rare in our industry. And I found a small company in Texas that was a startup, and they had 2 individuals that had sold higher numbers. And one of the most important things I tell you guys is this: success breeds success. Try to find a way that you can surround yourself with successful people, because who your friends are will ultimately determine where you are in 5 years from now. So that second year, I ended up going out and working for this other company called Moxie. And I was hired as a sales manager. When I got there, there was a problem. There was not a sales training manual at all. It was a small startup. And I went to the founder and asked him, I said, hey, can we write a training manual? Can we start filming some sales videos and create some sort of a training program? And I did it, honestly, out of self-interest for myself and my team to help them. And he saw that extra effort, and he actually rewarded me by saying, hey, you're the guy. I want you to be the main recruiter for our company next year. And so I got promoted to a director of sales or vice president of sales position that very next year. So I sold for them for several more years, sold 400, 500. In my last year, I actually ended up selling 900 accounts. And I was looking at moving on. I was going to graduate in finance with a 3.8 GPA. I had this awesome resume showing all this leadership, over 100 plus employees. I was making a 6-figure income while I was still in college, and I thought this is going to be a great resume to be able to go on to investment banking. And then my boss comes to me and says, I'm selling my company. And he says, you should go do pest control. If you're going to work, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks in investment banking, throw all that effort into a company and you'll be able to be really successful with it. And I think he saw something in me more than I saw in myself at the time. And he actually offered to teach me how to do it. He said, you can call me if you ever have questions, that type of thing. And this is a big turning point in my life, because growing up, I saw pest control as John Goodman from Arachnophobia. And I said, is that who I want to be someday? And ultimately, I had a big decision in front of me. So my big question, I knew that 80% of businesses failed in 5 years. I was taught that in my business classes. And that 97% of businesses fail after 10 years. Does anybody in here know what percentage of the United States population are entrepreneurs? Anybody want to take a guess? So it's actually about 13%. It's the highest it's ever been right now. And of those 13%, do you guys know how many people have a business that does $1 million in revenue or more per year? Only 5% of the whole 13% of the United States gets to $1 million a year. Anybody want to guess at 10 million? 0.0006% of businesses make it to $10 million a year in revenue. So the odds were definitely stacked against in my favor. And it was somewhat scary. In one of my business classes, though, I'd read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. If you guys haven't read this, it's a super easy read. It's probably 150 pages. And it's very basic for just about anybody to understand. And there's two things in there I learned about mitigating risk. The first one was have experience in the industry you're going into. If you've already had success and you have experience in something, you're that much more likely to be able to replicate the model. It's tough. If you were to go play tennis with, say, a John McEnroe, you couldn't expect to win. However, if you've been playing tennis for years and years, I still don't know that you could expect to win, but you might at least have a shot at knowing what you were doing when you got into the tennis match. The second thing was cash. You want to have about 3 times as much cash as you think you're going to need, because you're going to pay some dumb tax along the way. You just don't know what you don't know, and that's totally fine. That's part of entrepreneurship. So I took the plunge. I decided to start a company. And the first 2 years our first office was in Corona, and we serviced Orange County and the Inland Empire from that location. I learned every job there was to know in the business. So I understood the customer service side, what our technicians did, what the manager role was. I already understood the sales side. Over time, I learned the database, how to run the software, payroll, licensing, accounting, taxes, insurance, how to do financials, workers' comp. There's so many little things that I just had no idea went into business, and a lot of costs I didn't know. I created written job descriptions for everybody and training manuals, and continually added to those training manuals every single year. I worked 90-hour plus work weeks. I worked hardcore, because when you take everything you've ever made, I'd saved roughly $300,000 over the course of my 4 years selling pest control. I threw everything I had into this. I was very lucky. My wife got a scholarship to law school. We were saving for law school and for MBA school, and I took a huge gamble. And it will force you to work really hard if everything you've ever made is into your company. And we had a huge success. Our average office previously at my old company, we put on maybe 2,500 accounts. We put on 7,400 accounts our very first year in that office. And I almost went bankrupt, because we'd done so well that I had more cash to go out to have to pay the sales reps. And I literally went back to about 4 of my top selling reps and said, hey, can I hold on to your money just for another 2 or 3 months, and I'll pay you 10% interest on that money, just because we did way more accounts than I thought we were. And luckily they were nice enough to do that. So the 3rd and 4th year, this is probably the most difficult part in an entrepreneur's life, when he or she can no longer be at that location where they're doing the business. And so you want to learn how to nail it before you scale it. And this was the true test, to see if the business model I built the first 2 years, if I could actually open it up in another location and see if it could start to run on its own. And I split my time between both locations. I would drive, when my wife was going to Pepperdine, I would drive about an hour to Corona every day, back and forth. And then we moved to San Diego, where she took her first securities fraud litigation job. And I would drive from San Diego all the way to Corona, which is about an hour and 20 minutes. So that was my daily commute, to give you an idea. In California, that's not so long. In Utah, I realize that's probably seems like a long commute. So I started receiving offers from companies to buy my company. We started getting some national recognition at that point. And Terminex and some other large companies had approached me about purchasing our business. And I was trying to debate what to do at that point. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a pest controller for my whole life. And I thought about maybe going back to MBA school with some money in my pocket. Or I thought, well, maybe I could take that capital and roll it up into the next business venture. And ultimately, that's what I ended up doing. And so we opened up my new company, EcoFirst. And we expanded very quickly, about 4 operations per year, all in different states, which was tough. So that's probably the second hardest part. After you open your second location, opening up locations that aren't even near you, that you can't commute to every day, and you start flying around, it's pretty insane. And the toughest thing about it is that as an entrepreneur, you're very hands-on and you're a control freak most of the time. And you have to learn how to let go. You have to learn how to put people in charge and say, hey, this is your baby. We're going to follow up with key performance indicators to make sure that everything's going well. However, you are the face of the company now. And that's very tough for entrepreneurs. So I learned how to create layers of management and how to effectively operate. And what's really cool about business, this is probably the best thing about entrepreneurship of all. The money is great, but helping people to grow and to make more and to expand their abilities and have leadership responsibilities is the coolest thing of all. I think one of the coolest examples, my very first employee, he came on to work for us for an extra $200 a month. And over time, he worked his way into branch management, regional operations management. He's now the director of operations for our company, our COO. And he makes a very nice 6-figure income. And this is somebody who he doesn't actually have a college degree, but reads all the time, knows his industry 6 ways till Sunday. And it's such a cool opportunity to be able to provide that to people. Within a few years, we were the #1 fastest growing company again, according to PCT Magazine. And I was starting to have a predicament. So who remembers what was going on in 2009? Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of whispers. So the worst recession in probably the history of our lives that we'll ever see, or at least hopefully, right? So the worst since the Great Depression. And one of the things that we did is we started to tighten our belts. We started to grow nationally. I had no idea how the recession was going to affect my business. And so a lot of the fun things that we used to do, like just company breakfasts or some activities and incentives and all the little extra bells and whistles, we really cut back on those. And it was, honestly, looking back, it was the wrong thing to do. Because when you're starting to grow and your ability to influence is getting smaller, and you don't know everybody's name like you used to, and you don't know what their dreams or their aspirations are, and you don't know all their kids' names, it makes it tough to be able to control everything. And I was thinking, what do I do? I thought about doing an executive MBA to try to learn more about business and grow. And ultimately, I was reading a book called Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. Tony Hsieh is the founder of Zappos. It's a $1 billion company out of Las Vegas. And they have this huge, amazing focus on company culture. And to me, that was my answer. Company culture is like the religion that goes throughout your company and penetrates everybody in the sense that Dave can't be there. And it shouldn't be what would Dave do. It should be what are the company's values? What are our core values? What should we do? What is the right thing to do, as opposed to, well, what does Dave say we should do? Or how do we pass the phone on to Dave? Because I just can't handle thousands and thousands of calls a day. So our solution was primarily culture. And these are some of the growing pains that you have in a business as you get bigger and bigger. So at that time, we were getting more offers to be purchased. And I made a conscious decision to say, if we did sell, what could we do? And I just happened to be reading this cultural book at the time, and we said, okay, if we sold, what would we do? What are the great things we could do? And my goal was to make pest control sexy. I didn't want to be thought of as the arachnophobia version of pest control. And so there's a list, and we'll end up going through a bunch of these things, but it follows along this same principle of Kaizen, which is the Japanese principle of continued improvement. If you are not growing, you are dying. And that's true in business. It's true in your personal life. Education is a lifelong process. So some of the first things we did is we to all of our management and all of our employees, we sent out an email that said, we are looking to develop some core values for our company that we can seriously commit to. So what are those core values? And we got a couple hundred responses back. And then we had to whittle those core values. We decided that 10 was our number. We weren't going to have more than that. It would be too hard to remember. thought, 10 commandments, 10 core values. And so this is what we came up with, and it was really, really fun because we got everybody to participate in it. We also came up with a mission statement that we could all really get behind, with nothing but gnats and helping save lives, so that the company, the focus wasn't just on profits, but it was much greater than that. We started using Facebook and Instagram as a way to communicate with not only our employees, but also our customers. And so we have a much larger social media presence online, and to help show what our company culture is and how we're different and how we're unique, so that when people are making a conscious decision between one pest control provider and another, they can say, you know what, I really like the way this company, this organization is going about this. I want to back these guys. Headquarters. So we thought, what a great way to build a headquarters somewhere and make it really unique and encourage activities and incentives and prizes. And so we put in an NCAA basketball court at our headquarters. We put in a golf simulator, ping pong, foosball, air hockey, just a break room where people could go in and relax and enjoy themselves. We hire a lot of college students, and so it was a way for them to get away from college and just, take a breather. We also wanted our office to be unique and different. We didn't want to be have this focus on the old school blue collar traditional pest control. Most offices you go into in pest control, you're not impressed. And we wanted people to walk into our organization and say, what is this organization? I want to be a part of it. This is unique. The owner or the executive team, these people care about their employees. We've invested about $800,000 into sales technologies. So one way to be able to show our people that we care about them, even though they may not see me on an everyday basis, is to develop sales technologies that help them sell more. Now granted, this works both ways. It helps the company make more, but it also helps the sales reps make a lot more. So they have the ability to see all of their customers and know if they're active or inactive. When they get to an area, they can click a locator button and know where the nearest 100 Alterra customers are at. And so if they need names, or people say, well, who else do you service in my neighborhood? They can literally point right around them. Keeping track of doors knocked. They know every door they knock. They can look at basically Google Maps, and there's pins on each home, and they can keep track of what their daily statistics are, so they can try to find ways to improve. We have paperless agreements to, anyway, we really pitch ourselves as an environmentally responsible company. And so we're always looking ways to help save the environment if possible. And sales tournaments. We've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into sales tournaments to really push our people, especially for the second half of the summer when the job starts to get more monotonous and tiring. So activities. One of my greatest struggles or my greatest growing pains was not being able to see everybody all the time. And I thought, it would be really cool if we could create life experiences that are really memorable. And so one of the ways we've done it is every year now we take all of our sales managers to Hawaii, to a different island. And the goal is most people, they go to a different island. Most people are in school for 4 or 5 years. And so the idea is to hit the 4 major islands in Hawaii when you work for us. And everything from shark diving to cliff jumping to paddle boarding, it's an amazing experience. The second thing we did, we got 10 season jazz tickets in the lower bowl, so that we can encourage people to get to know each other and have fun. And I can go to those occasionally, and it's mainly all our other people that go to those games. Branch manager activities. Every year we fly in all of our general managers into Utah or Vegas or California, wherever we're going to go, and do a big company retreat. And so the retreat is part of it is educational, and the other half is just having fun. So this is us in Moab, jeeping. Which, if you haven't done Moab jeeping, it's one of the most amazing experiences you'll ever do. And then we also had this giant basketball gym, and we said, well, what can we do with that? And we said, well, how can we be more of a member of the community and bring people in and just give back? And so we have everything from giant dance parties to rock concerts. That's me with Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons. We've had Tyler Glenn from Neon Trees play. And so that's been really, really fun and exciting. I think it's really important as an entrepreneur to continually share your vision. You have got to get everybody on board. And we currently have a vision of, just for the next 3 years, we've done 50 million already. We want to get to 100 million over the next 3 years. And we continually want to grow into 90 metros, by 2025. That would be roughly 5,000 cities across the United States. So we're about a fifth of the way there. And it's important to explain to your employees about growth and opportunity so that they want to stick around. They realize that where there is growth, there is the ability to move into management and make more money and learn more. It's also really important to ask for feedback. So we actually pay each customer $5 after their service if they will tell us how we did. We learned some of our best ideas, not only from our customers, but also from our employees. We pay each employee $100 if they come up with an idea that we can implement across the company. They are the ones who are on the front lines. I'm no longer there. I'm in this big, great and spacious, fancy building, and everybody else is out in the field doing their thing. And with time, things change. People want different things, and many of our best ideas have come from our people on the front lines. And lastly, celebrating success. I think you guys have got a feel for that with the importance. Each year when we do something great, although to us, maybe we're never satisfied or we're always trying to grow bigger, this idea that celebrating success is really, really important. So when we hit our 100, we have about 200,000 customers right now, and we hit our 100,000th customer, we went out and did a big spoof, did a press release, and gave them tickets to the Jazz game and gave them a bunch of Altera gear. Okay, so tips for success. Many of you are probably saying, okay, well, that's great, Dave, but what does that mean to me? And I think that a lot of people look at businesses that have grown quickly or that have achieved some level of success, and they think it happened overnight. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. This has been a work in progress for the last 10 years. And success, how do you eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. How do you begin a journey of 1,000 steps? It begins with a single step. And having a plan and a vision to get to where you want, I can't stress that enough. Not having a vision and just kind of going with the world, society will ultimately dictate where you're going to go if you don't forge your own path and say, this is what I want, and really come up with something in detail. So I'm going to share some tips with you guys that I think are crucial for entrepreneurs. The first one has to do with conquering your fears. Fear is the 4-letter F word in life. It kills countless dreams and paralyzes people. Your real enemy is fear. It's not your competitors. Find that inner gladiator inside of you and put him in charge. Problems are muscle builders. You've got to be comfortable with failure. If you're not, entrepreneurship is not your thing. You're going to fail many times. And the most important thing is you learn how to fail and then pivot in the other direction. Sometimes you can be off by just a degree or 2 degrees and you're failing. And you just make the slightest change and you can have some amazing success. Also, kill your story. The one you keep telling yourself in your head, over and over, like, I don't know if I can do this. This might be harder than I think, or it's going to be a lot of work. I don't know if I want to put that time into it. Get rid of it. Entrepreneurship is a place, it's for gladiators. It's not for dabbling wannabes. I really like the comparison between an entrepreneur and a gladiator, because with a gladiator, every time he goes into the ring, he is that much more statistically likely to die. And business, as you guys can see, it's the same thing. Every year you last in business, you're that much more likely to go out of business. It's pretty unique. So know your why. So this goes back to vision and having a plan. If you know why you want something, the how is going to come later. You don't necessarily know how you have to get there, but if you have enough emotional gas, if you come up with dozens of reasons why you have to become an entrepreneur, it's going to get you through those really tough times. You need to have a lot of resilience in order to get through the failures. I also want to focus a little bit on wealth. Once you have some success, you're going to realize really quickly that material things don't mean that much. Someday, you might get a Lamborghini, and you'll probably realize that it's not as fun as you thought it was going to be. I do appreciate the idea that things sometimes help people get somewhere, and there's a lot of good that can come from that. I do believe that capitalism is a positive thing, and that people striving to build a business is a great thing, not only for our economy, but for everybody in their personal lives. Business is also spiritual to me. You pour your soul into a business, countless hours, and it's a place where it involves faith and courage and growth and charity and countless ways to help people. And sometimes I think business gets a bad rap because maybe the focus seems more like it's on money, but there's so many ways you can choose ultimately what you want it, what accomplishments you want out of it. And then I like that quote from Maximus in Gladiator, what we do in life echoes throughout eternity. I really do believe that people will be blessed for creating jobs and creating opportunities for people. Learn how to sell. So there's 3 door-to-door billionaires up here. And every entrepreneur I've ever met has been amazing at selling their vision, selling their product or service. They are likable. They can go on and on forever and tell you about something and make it sound like it's the best thing in the world. So learn how to sell. The ability to persuade is needed no matter what you do in life, whether you're a doctor, an attorney, a school teacher, whether you are a spouse, a parent, a church leader. You have to know how to persuade people of your ideas. And I think of the summer sales, going out when you're a college student and selling in the summertime. What a unique opportunity to be able to learn how to persuade, to learn how to do it with integrity, to learn the work ethic that it takes to ultimately become successful in life and to be really successful. Also, the ability to lead. After my first year, I was able to get into leadership, and same thing with the people who go out and sell with us. They have that ability the second year. If they do well the first year and sell 250 accounts, they can become a sales leader. And to be able to differentiate yourself from your peers on your resume, to be able to say, I recruited, trained, and managed 15, 20 individuals while I was still in college, really sets yourself apart. Most people wait 10 years after college to get into a management position. And then John D. Rockefeller, I'll pay more for the ability to handle people than any other ability under the sun. So, choose your employees wisely. I can't stress this enough. People will either inspire you or drain you. And if you guys haven't read the book, Good to Great, it's an awesome book. It focuses on getting people on the bus, the right people on the bus, getting the wrong people off, and then once you have the right people on the bus, getting them in the right positions so that your company can succeed. And the importance of doing, we're unique in that our company, I don't know of a lot of other companies that do summer sales where they actually do background checks, drug testing, personality tests. We want to make sure it's a good fit for both the salesperson and also for us. And same thing goes for all of our other employees. Again, I mentioned, tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you where you'll be in 5 years. You can't hang out with pigs and not expect to get dirty. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh. Likewise, you can't soar with eagles if you're hanging around a bunch of turkeys. And whatever group you associate yourself with, whether it's friends, whether it's your business, choose wisely because you ultimately will become those you hang around with, whether you want to or not. Choose your spouse wisely. This one, I don't think I could have understood how important this was initially going into it. They say happy wife, happy life, but I guess someone didn't get the memo. For me, I had a unique opportunity. My spouse wanted to do law school, and she wanted to work for 5 years to get that experience so that someday she could go back and do that. And that helped me a lot to be able to put in 80, 100-hour weeks. It wasn't always easy for us. We did some things that other people said, you guys are crazy, the amount of time that you've dedicated. But the amount of time and the amount of freedom I have now in my life to do whatever I want to do is so much more than probably 90% of the rest of the population. I can choose. I can dictate my hours much more now than I could when I first started. The hardest part is making the first million, guys. And after that, in some ways, it does get easier because you get your processes down. And you kind of know your business in and out. Make sure that you have goals too. It's not enough just to work for money. You definitely want to, if vacations are exciting to you, we love international travel, we love food, we love culture, that's really neat to us. You find out what it is with your spouse someday that you guys can both enjoy so that when you put in the extra hours, you're both doing it. It's for a good cause. It's not just, well, my husband's crazy ambitious and this is his thing. Stand for something better. Find integrity in your life. My mom used to always say that integrity is what you do when nobody else is looking. And I think that's outstanding advice. ultimately what you get in this life, it will not make you happy. What you, who you become will ultimately make you very happy or very sad. So the end does not justify the means, ever. It's just not worth it. It doesn't mean a lot if you accomplish all this and then at the end of the day you've done it the wrong way. Nobody will respect that. I don't think anybody says I want to be a liar someday, but it's a slippery slope. I'm part of a group of CEOs. There's about 60 of us in Salt Lake that meet once a month, and we'll have guest speakers come out and speak. And how many of you remember Enron? Does that name ring a bell? Okay, good. So back in 2000 when I was going to school, this was the big business case that we were going through, and we had the tech crash, and Enron ended up going bankrupt. They had a bunch of creative accounting that was going on. And this is their CFO, Andy, and he came and spoke to us. And it was really fascinating to hear how things started out great, and over time, in order to cover their ability not to grow, how they started to cover up things. And it's a lot easier to be, he said it's a lot easier to be honest 100% of the time as opposed to 98% of the time. Because then you continue to have another lie to cover up the last lie, and you get really creative with your accounting. So Andy actually went to jail for 4 years. And now he occasionally does guest speaking. And what's ironic is my wife, the first securities fraud litigation firm that she worked for, they sued Enron and won $7 billion back for all their investors. And my wife got a $50,000 bonus for it. So thank you, Andy. Time management. I can't stress how important it is to be really good at your time management. You only have so much bandwidth. There's only so many hours in a day. And the more efficient you learn to become, the better off you're going to be. I took a class, I think it was called Student Effectiveness at BYU, and I can't tell you how important it's been building a business. So return calls, texts, and emails promptly. Do it on the same day. If you can do it quicker, do it quicker. But make sure to always respond to people the same day to build trust and confidence in you and in your company. Beat deadlines. Doing work at the 11th hour, it's not the best way. And I'm a hypocrite when I say that, because in college, I had a lot of all-nighters. And I've learned over time that when you're under pressure, you can't get your best work done. Be early. Always be 5 to 10 minutes early to everything. It's smart. Being late to things, it loses credibility, or forces you to lose credibility. Have a daily calendar. I can't stress this one enough. So I have a weekly sheet, and I can look at my week. I'm old school. I still do it on paper. I don't do it on iPhone or on a computer. And I like to be able to see every day of the week, because I can see the gaps that I have and intentionally try to place new things where I have holes so I don't get stressed on one particular day. Every hour of the day, from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. when I go to bed, I literally have written what I'm going to do. And you become this productivity freak over time, because as the company gets bigger, you have more stuff to do. And then you also want to list your A's, B's, and C's. What that means is make sure that you're getting your A's done. Your A's are being the most important thing to get done during the day. Your B's are, they need to get done, but if I don't get them done today, I can still get it done tomorrow. And your C's are, I've got a week, 2 weeks to get this done. It's not that important. Oftentimes the C's are little things. It might just be simple errands. And we feel better when we just get stuff done. So you get a lot of C's and B's done, but you don't get the A's done. And the A's can really hurt your business or hurt your life. So be careful not to mistake movement for achievement. And then finally, this is the phrase I learned from that student effectiveness class. My teacher said, if you don't learn anything else from me, this is the one sentence I want you to remember, and I actually still remember today. It's, what is the best use of my time right now? Leaders are readers. It's important to sharpen the saw. This is one of our core values. Read one book per month. Take 30 minutes per day and read no matter what. Don't let anything else get in the way of that. Education is a lifelong process. You're going to continually learn. If you think you've learned everything in school, it's funny, because once you get out of school, whatever business you go to work for, they're going to tell you, forget what you learned, we're going to teach you our way. And then over time, what they taught you is going to become outdated, and you're going to have to continually keep learning. So it's sad to me how I see so many people go to school, They study like crazy. Oftentimes they're in the library till midnight. They learn this amazing work ethic. And then when they get out, they just want to do an 8 to 5-er. And it's like you've been trained to do so much more. And you have this amazing skill set for many of you to go be entrepreneurs. But I see a lot of people, they take their books and they sell them back to school. I was the only person that kept my business books, at least that I know of. And I use my business books after, because at that point I knew I was going to become an entrepreneur. My degree is sitting in my basement, guys, somewhere in a file cabinet. That is not, just getting a degree, it's not everything. It's the knowledge you gain and then applying that knowledge. If you just take the knowledge with you but you don't apply it, why did you spend all this money on college? Why did you learn this work ethic? Choose to be amazing. And become an expert in your field. Whatever you do, be amazing, because you will get promoted. Whoever it is that is above you will do that. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, there's no excuse for not being an expert. You have to be. Give 110% every day. If you do this, it's amazing what an extra 10% can add up to over the course of a year. We are happiest when we are striving for our true potential. If you want to be happy on a daily basis, give your all to whatever it is that you're doing. Complacency leads to negativity. If you're not growing, you are dying. A few ways to do this. So number one, outwork the competition. If you arrive 1 hour early and you leave 1 hour late, that's just an extra 2 hours per day. But have you ever calculated, so this is where the productivity thing comes into play. Have you ever calculated what that adds up to in a year? That's an extra 3 months of work that you just outworked all of your peers. If you had an extra 3 months done, do you not think that you could get your projects to be the most amazing in the company? Or that you could come up with some new really creative ideas to help the company expand, whatever it might be. Talked about good to great. Don't measure yourself by what you've accomplished, but instead by what you should have accomplished. Some of you, your potentials may be different, and everybody's at a different point in their life along this journey we call life. You're going to have a choice between good, better, and best. I'm telling you, there is no road, there's no traffic on the extra mile. A lot of people say it would be nice to be successful with a business or to be a millionaire. But at the end of the day, they're not willing to take some of these simple steps to make it happen. And I see so many, whether it's fear that scares people away from it, whether it's other people telling them, oh, you can't do that because that's what society believes. Choose to put some earmuffs on. Don't always listen to everybody. There's a lot of good advice and a lot of bad advice out there. Find successful people and use them as mentors. Copy success, because success breeds success. A few last things. So learn to enjoy the journey. Fun is the secret to our success. Richard Branson said that. I wish I could coin that term. But I really believe that same thing. We live by that same philosophy. This is us with a bunch of our sales managers out doing a skydive trip. We do that every year. And we're constantly trying to think of new ideas and ways to create memorable life experiences. I think a lot of people, they say, I'll be happy someday when. So when you're in elementary school, it's, well, someday when I'm in high school, I'll be the big man on campus. When you're in high school, then it's, well, when I go to college, then I'll be able to get girls, and that'll be great. Freedom from my parents. And then they get in college and they say, well, when I get to my job and I can finally make money and I don't have to take all these exams, that'll be awesome. And then they say, well, when I get married someday, then that's when I'll be truly happy. This work sucks. And then they get married and they have kids and they say, wow, when the kids are out of the house, this is going to be great. And then the kids do go out of the house. And you say, I really miss those days when I was in elementary school because I didn't have a care in the world. And I miss those days when I was in high school. That was a really fun time. And college, the freedom, not having to work and not having to deal with, just the normal daily stresses of life. And I wish I could have started a business back then because I would have had all this time, right after college. And then the kids move on, and I see my parents going through this, where they say, I really wish the kids were around more. My parents ended up moving back to Utah just to be around us, to be around grandkids. So a few things. I'm going to leave you with this quote and another. A great brand is a story that never stops unfolding. I believe that of people too. A great man or woman is a story that never stops unfolding. And finally, hell on earth is someday meeting the man or woman you could have become. Thank you for your time. Then I probably got 5 minutes for Q&A if anybody wants to ask questions.
I've got a question. How did you go from, you started Echo first, and then how did you transition into Altera? How did that work out?
So I actually sold that company to Terminex. I'd had several offers from different companies to be purchased, and after reading Delivering Happiness and saying I want to really make some big investments back in the company, that infusion of cash made sense. We've always wanted to grow without private equity or without banks getting involved so that we had the ultimate decision to do whatever we wanted. Yeah?
I just started reading Volt by your team on this. It talks a lot about exponential growth and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with exponential growth?
Yeah, so learning how to manage it is tough initially. To triple in size or to be growing, in pest control, nobody's doing what we're doing right now. And we have magazines calling us saying, what are you doing? We don't necessarily want to give away our secret sauce entirely. But having really good people that are on board with your vision is key, because they'll work the extra hours. They will find a way to make it happen. And you need to make sure you incentivize those people correctly so that they'll put in that extra time. Part of it too, I've heard something by several CEOs where they say if you ask people to do more than what's expected, they actually become more loyal to you. And so, I remember those late nights, with several of my managers eating pizza together at 10 o'clock at night because we're working late trying to get everything done. And that's just the culture you have to develop. You have to have people that are on board with that. You can't hire just 8-to-5ers. Yeah?
So with your first company that you sold, with Terminex, at that point you already kind of maybe had the start of your secret sauce, right?
Yes.
So did Terminex not have you sign like a non-compete or something? Like
They did.
You took that same sauce and you started another company that's now whooping Terminex.
So here's something. So when you have a company that is located in a specific region and it doesn't affect, like say, the whole United States, you can have a non-solicitation agreement or a non-compete agreement just in a specific zip code or area code. And so that's what we did. So the first company, we could not go back into Southern California. We had a non-compete. Typically non-competes are for 5 years. And when I sold the second one, that's actually the most unique one because I haven't heard of a lot of companies doing this, where I told them, I can't relocate everybody. We've got too many offices and too many people at this time. But what if we do a non-compete? We'll stay in the same city. Some of the cities we chose to relocate, about a third of them we did. But in the cities we're going to stay in, we just won't take your customers. And we'll have a specific agreement that says that we can't do that. And for them, that's even better because if we went to some other place, we could take Terminex customers from them. And so if we decide to stay and we say we won't take your customers, that was actually a win-win for them. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you balance the work and family?
I get that one a lot. So balance it's here. And it's different for everybody. The term workaholic, maybe because most people think of alcoholic when they hear it, but it has this negative connotation to it. Do you really think that people who are workaholics hate what they do? I would argue that most of them, they do what they do because they love it. And you need to find a spouse that's okay with that. We definitely waited a little bit to have children. We had to be okay with that. I'm not saying that's right for everybody. I always tell people, do what makes you happiest and choose wisely, because it may, you don't always know what the consequences are going to be later on. But as far as balance goes, my wife and I work really hard during the weeks, and then I try not to do anything on the weekends now. And I leave at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I try to be home by 8 so I can see my daughter just before she goes to bed. And for us, that's normal. And my wife's actually very happy with it because it's scaled back way from what it used to be. So you got to make sure that your spouse is on board, for sure. Yeah? So your systems and processes, your training manuals, your policy and procedure manuals, they've got to be really, really good. If they're not, you're going to learn along the way how to improve those. That's probably the biggest secret, and then hiring the right person for that area. So having a very extensive interview process, having that person have worked for you for a long time. We found that hiring people from outside the company, you're at more risk that way. But if you have somebody that's been working really hard for you for a long time and you can grow organically from within your business, you're going to find better people that way. So just remember that whoever you hire, that is the face of your company. There's a great book called First Break All the Rules that talks a lot about that. If you want to learn more about how do you hire and what people are going to do well.
Good questions. If you want to come down and talk to David after, I'm sure he has a few minutes, we could do that, but let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.